Lane Kiffin is at it again, landing the #1 player in the transfer portal from Texas A&M defensive lineman Walter Nolen. Nolen was a 5-star in the 2022 class, right around 6'4" in the 300-pound range. Everybody can use a guy like Walter Nolen. So what does it mean for Ole Miss? How does Walter Nolen impact their chances in 2024 for a college football playoff berth, an SEC title? We'll talk about all that right now, but first things first, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We talk college football every single day right here on this show, The Hard Count. We'd love to have y'all dialed in. We appreciate y'all in advance for that. Ole Miss fans, let's lock in, baby. Big year ahead, in my opinion, by nature of landing a guy like Walter Nolen, along with the rest of the guys that you've landed. Landed Juice Wells, wide receiver from South Carolina, who was extremely productive before he was dinged up this season. The previous year, he was on fire. Tyler Barron from Tennessee, extremely productive, the edge defender. Princely Umanmielen from Florida. That's where I want to focus. They have now stacked the trenches in Oxford. Guys that I just mentioned, I'll say it one more time. Princely Umanmielen, Tyler Barron, and bringing in the #1 player in the transfer portal, Walter Nolen. This is huge. This is huge, and the reason why it's huge is because this is the next step for Ole Miss to get to where they want to go. Because listen, Lane Kiffin, they've competed in the SEC. They've had 10-win seasons, and that's great. Nobody is talking down about that at all. I promise you. There's a lot of schools that would give their left arm and a kicker to have a 10-win season. He's had 2 in the last 3 years, like I just mentioned. Offense hasn't been the problem. Scored over 31 points a game in 2023. Lane Kiffin being the guy for you as your head coach, you feel pretty confident about the direction of the offense in the future. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to put points on the board. But to win in the SEC, who do you have to beat? More than likely, have to beat Georgia, have to beat Alabama. In the new SEC, you'll have to beat a team like Texas, who's a college football playoff team, who has a top 5 run defense in the country. The bottom line is you got to have the big boys to compete with the big boys, right? Adding a guy like Walter Nolen is a massive step, a massive flag plant in saying, okay, we're here now. You told us the price of admission. You told us what we got to have to compete in the SEC. Averaged 4 yards a carry given up on the ground last season. I'd be wildly surprised if that's the same thing this upcoming year in 2024. Oh, by the way, you expand the playoff. You can't hide the big boys when it comes to November and when it comes to December. Like it's a game of attrition. Having that depth and having what's required for success on the defensive line, you really find out who you are in November and December on those sides of the football, especially up front in that D-line scenario. So adding Walter Nolen, absolutely massive in that sense. And it's not someone you're landing from like the G5 level or from a lower power conference. Walter Nolen is coming from another SEC school. Like everything he's done to this point, his resume, it stacks up just fine with what they're going to ask him to do at Ole Miss. A guy who's got 66 tackles and 5 sacks in the last 2 years. So what he was billed as a recruit out of high school and what he's done at the collegiate level, like it matches up just fine. This is not a guy you're hoping is going to pan out. This is a proven commodity who's going to contribute for you in a big way as soon as he steps foot on campus in Oxford. So this is the thing I would say now when it comes to Lane Kiffin and when it comes to Ole Miss and landing a guy like Walter Nolen. I said this on a previous video. I'm going to say it again. It takes what it takes, right? It takes what it takes. To win in the SEC, it takes having big boys to stop the run for you. You can try to scheme around as much as you can and be successful. You can try and outpace people offensively. But if you want to hoist some hardware in early December in Atlanta, it takes the big boys up front. Lane Kiffin understands that, clearly by nature of how he's gone to work in the portal and how he's now landed the #1 guy out of the portal on the offensive line. Lane Kiffin now has the trenches to compete for those Tier 1 trophies, for the SEC title, for things in the college football playoff. Like they're now in that era. So Walter Nolen coming to Oxford, cannot stress this enough. This is a massive get, both literally, again, 6'4", right around 300. That's a big dude. And metaphorically for the direction of this operation in Oxford and for Lane Kiffin. Portal Kings at it again. Walter Nolen is headed to Ole Miss. Keep it locked right here. Make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate y'all in advance for that. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.